So that was what we've been playing, and since you came up with this topic, Thomas, the state of handheld gaming, why don't you give us a quick explanation of what we're talking about tonight?
Okay, so obviously the Switch OLED model just came out, or at least was announced this past week, and that's had me thinking a lot of stuff. I mean, the first thing is who's this actually for? You guys have heard me before. I'm usually pretty critical and possibly snarky about how Nintendo fans really like to get that rumor mill spinning wildly out of control. And then Nintendo's just like, okay, well, we're going to do about 20% of what you guys said. Here you go. Not to say, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell what people really think because so many opinions are just so blown out of proportion, and I can't tell what's a real opinion and what's a tweet that's trying to get attention, if you know what I mean. So anyway, this had me looking at who is this actually for, but it's not just about the Switch OLED. It's about the other handheld gaming devices that are not a phone, well, that are not for mobile games, like I play Hearthstone on my phone. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm really talking about is PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile. It's the xCloud streaming that you can do through Game Pass. You can play your Game Pass games. You can play Sea of Thieves and Gears of War from your phone with a controller. So there are a lot of ways that you can play like games in a handheld mode of all different types, right? So I want to take a look at what that is right now, who the handheld market is, and where we think it could be leading based on the kinds of people who play it. So we can start with the low-hanging fruit, the Switch OLED. Is that how the youngins call it? The OLED?
Yes.
Yes. DJ OLED.
So to
Yes.
It took me a second to
so
get
good.
that. That's the OLED model has a bigger screen. It has a built-in Ethernet port, where right now you have to get a dongle to use that on your regular Switch. It has a better kickstand. Let me get this thing in front of me. It has a new dock that goes with it. Yeah, so it's a whole new thing. It's just a bigger, wider Switch, right? So if you're playing on your TV, all this really means, as far as I can tell, is that you get an Ethernet port built into your dock. But if you already own a Switch today, the model's $350. I own a Gen 1 Switch. There's no way I'm buying the new one, even though I do 90% of my Switch gaming in handheld mode. I almost never play on my TV unless I have to charge my Switch, and I have to have it on the TV while I'm playing. I also don't play online games on my Switch, which is on purpose. It's kind of my indie game baby. I like to sit sideways on a couch, usually under a blanket, and play some handheld games like that.
That sounds so cozy.
Yeah, it's my cozy Switch. So the Switch to me is that it's a cozy handheld system, but at $350, even with the wider screen, even with the cool kickstand, I'm not sure if this is for me. As a personal thing, I was telling you guys in our chat that I tend not to upgrade things until they break. My PC, unless I find that I cannot do something like I have a streaming limitation or something like that, unless I hit a wall, I'm not going to upgrade a piece in my computer until I absolutely have to. A lot of people love doing that. I'm not one of those people. So the idea of selling my current Switch to get the upgraded one doesn't even seem worth the price for the new Switch plus the work it would take to buy and sell using whatever marketplace. So who is the Switch OLED for? I would say immediately it would seem cool if I knew my preferences now and I didn't own a Switch at all, cool. Then the OLED sounds great. But a lot of people already own Switches, especially with the pandemic and Animal Crossing and all this stuff. A ton of people bought a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 Switch. So do we think Nintendo is trying to appeal to people to upgrade? Do we think they're trying to appeal to, there is constantly an influx of people who are buying new systems. They've never had one before. And Nintendo is, like the family, it's like the PG console, right? At least that's the way it would be perceived. I feel like if I was a parent who knew nothing about games, but I'm not really sure. I'm not sure who this appeals to, because the rumor mill was like, so everybody wanted amazing things, and this seems cool. It seems fine, but I just don't know if it's enough for me to think that it's going to cause a splash. Not to say that it was a bad move on Nintendo's part. They wouldn't do it if they didn't think it was a good idea. But I just don't. I don't see myself recommending this to that many people. It just leaves me confused, and who cares? I'm just some guy. I'm just a gamer. So it doesn't. It really, honestly, doesn't matter if I'm confused. So what? But I don't know who that's for.
Well, the way that I've seen it, like, compared to, is like, if you look at their DS family, there was like the Nintendo 3DS, right, which is the Nintendo Switch, and then you have the Nintendo 2DS, which is the Nintendo Switch Lite, right? So this OLED model is basically the 3DS XL.
Yeah.
That's the most accurate parallel that I've seen drawn. So to me, thinking of it like that, it's just like, you can upgrade if you want to, unless you have the second generation Switch, in which case the insides are basically exactly the same. The only thing that changes for you is the amount of storage, which you can already change with an SD card anyway. And you also get the dock with the built-in LAN adapter, which, if you're playing Switch Online, is pretty crucial.
Yeah.
But you also do lose that port when you do that. If you do upgrade, you lose that 3.0 port, which, to be fair, nothing is using right now on the Switch. But that's still a loss of a port, especially with the GameCube adapter using the front too. What are you going to do if you stream like with a USB instead of like with an HDMI capture,
Right.
So there's some options to weigh there. And what's really neat is that the dock is compatible with any of the current Switches that are out, because the Switch OLED model is exactly the same size as the other Switches. The only thing that makes it have a bigger screen is that the bevel on the screen is smaller. So you just get more screen real estate, but the actual system doesn't increase in size.
Right.
Which is actually really nice for those who are already comfortable holding their Switch a certain way. You don't have to reacclimate yourself to like a different grip or anything like that.
Right. And you can use the same carrying case and stuff like that.
Same Joy-Con, right, as well. And I think that the speakers, particularly for people who play in handheld mode like you, I think the speakers are going to be a nice boon too. But again, if you have a V2 Switch, I would hold off. If you have a V1 Switch, or if you don't have a Switch at all, I would say it's a good investment. It is a little bit pricier with that $50 markup. But again, thinking of it as the parallel to the DS family, that's how I can rationalize. That's how I rationalize it that way. So, I don't know. I don't know who it's for, but I can determine why you would buy one.
Yeah. Specifically for me, it's looking at the people that bought a Switch in 2019, just prior to the V2, or they bought the Switch Lite. Looking at the numbers, the normal Switch is somewhere around 85 million units sold right now, and the Switch Lite is somewhere between 16 and 20 million. So maybe they're just trying to convert those few people that have a Lite and don't have the normal Switch. There's still plenty of overlap there, but I'm sure there's more than enough people out there that just have the Lite that might be willing to spend that extra at this point, especially if they think that they'll need a little bit of a bump by the time Breath of the Wild 2 and stuff like that come out. So
yeah, I would be interested in actually getting my hands on one. I don't know when or how that's going to happen. Of course I just moved to Seattle, so I don't know anybody up here yet, so it's not like I can just ask my friends to let me borrow it. But I would like to get my hands on it, because I feel like it could be enough that I could pick it up and be like, oh, so this is the big deal. I
Those
regularly,
Joy-Cons.
yeah, and I routinely bring up how much I like the haptic feedback on the PS5 controller. But if you haven't played a PS5, then all it is just words because, I think it's amazing. I think the haptic feedback on the PS5 controller is an absolute game changer. But, okay, like, unless you have it in your hands, you're probably just going to say, okay, Thomas, great, like, cool.
All right, Grandma, let's get you back to bed. Like,
I'm not gonna put on Returnal for you. Just hold the controller. Just...
Yeah. So
But I wanna.
I would like to have that in my hands and actually see it for myself. So I'm not trying to rail on it. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not good. But yeah, so that's the Switch OLED that comes out in October.
alongside Metroid Dread.
Red.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those Joy-Con and the dock are the same color as Emmy. Don't think I didn't notice, Nintendo. Sneaky.
So then we also have next on the list is the xCloud streaming through Game Pass, which essentially means you can play all your Game Pass games on your phone, and that's what there is to it. It's not really. It doesn't seem, as far as I can tell, limiting in basically any way. Like if you can play it on your computer and/or Xbox, then you can play it on your phone. Yeah, and so there's Carlos. He's got the handheld one. So Carlos, what's the one you've talked about it before? What's the one that you've got?
The Kishi is my main one for any time that I'm using the cloud service. Definitely a good purchase, and there's some new models that actually recently came out. If people are interested in grabbing them up, and yeah, the cloud streaming is growing, and it's kind of growing along with the rest of all the other technologies out there. With Windows 11 coming out, and it seems like Microsoft is pushing so much harder to get software, number one, more efficient and more accessible on literally every device that they can. And so now that it's either on or coming to Apple, I forget because I don't really give a shit about the iPhone stuff. But when it came to that, it's like, okay, now this is a whole other world of devices. It's really just for everybody at this point, as far as Game Pass and their cloud streaming. And at the end of the day, the prices are getting stupidly cheap for everything. I mean, Game Pass is constantly on sale. There's constant promos. So really, since they know that they're not going to hit, 100 million Xbox Series X's anytime soon, why not just get people where you can? And that's the top-notch services that they have.
So, question number one for you is, if where you're sitting right now, you obviously have your computer in front of you. I know your Switch is next to you. I assume that your Xbox is next to you. Where do you play using your Kishi? You just said it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the Razer Kishi.
Razer Kishi.
Yeah, and so that's like because I have the fiber Wi-Fi mesh system. I have one of my Wi-Fi little spots over next to my bed. So anytime I feel like taking something, let's say I was just playing a game of Madden, I wanted to get to the bed instead, so I could literally just save the game real quick, hop onto the cloud version with the Kishi at my bed, and I'd be just fine.
Bet.
And I mean, you can do it anywhere as long as it's attached to a phone with cell service. But I haven't really tested it out that way, just because it really depends on your network. But again, if I had a brand new phone that came out this year, the network capability would probably be totally fine to deal with the pressures that the network needs for the cloud system. I just know that the Pixel 4a I have is not quite fast enough processor wise to do what it needs to.
Yeah, I've got the
as
4A as well, and sometimes I'm like, all right, let's pick up the pace.
because when you're trying to play something like Gears 5 or even Gears Tactics on a phone, nah, it ain't happening. Like
No.
we're talking about Witcher 3 Switch issues, maybe worse
Oh,
actually,
no.
Oh,
as far as actual playability. When I tested A Plague Tale Innocence on my Galaxy S6 tab, it literally just kept just what is it? It was like it looked like it was refreshing the screen every second.
Oh no.
Like it would fade out in color, it would come back, it would fade out in color, it would come back, and it would drop frames. Like that tablet could not handle it. But with literally each passing day and generation upgrade, it's going to be near seamless for a lot of games. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
well, Rogue Company is going to be coming to mobile soon too, so I wonder if that's going to be able to take advantage of, that cloud streaming sort of deal, because it's already available on like almost every platform. So it only makes sense for it to come to mobile too.
Yeah.
And I bet that's
Yeah.
going to be like a hot commodity. So
Well, so I was wondering
Yeah.
on that because it's a multiplayer only game. Like Gears has single player. I mean, it has multiplayer. When I think of Gears, I really just think of the single player, even though a lot of people would say differently. But with Rogue Company, it's multiplayer only. So that, because we had somebody bring up PUBG Mobile as well, which is essentially the same game, except on your screen you point at the enemy, and when your crosshair is over an enemy, it pulls the trigger, it shoots. Do you think, just anecdotally, do you think that Rogue Company would do that, or do you think it would be the actual game? And if it was, would it? Well, the actual game. I'm not trying to be snarky. You know what I mean? Would it be crossplay? Like, would a mobile player stand any sort of chance and have a good time if they were going against PC players? Because if it was fun, I mean, if they made PUBG Mobile and COD Mobile fun, and my friends who play those games really enjoyed them, which shocked me. I thought it was going to be a cash grab. If they were able to make people have fun on those systems or on those versions, as far as people, I mean, as long as people are having a good time, then sure, whatever they do is going to be fine. But how do you think that would work? Because if it was the full game, I'd be nervous if I played it, if I was just getting whooped every time I jumped in with my friends, Like, would you and I be able to play together, and would you just get frustrated on your phone or not? I mean, I'm sure they'd figure it out. They know what they're doing. They're game developers, but...
well, if it's anything like Warzone or what's the other Call of Duty? I think Black Ops, that was on mobile as well. It'll probably just be like the full game that you can play with the controller. When I was worked as a host at like a sports bar, the chefs in the back kitchen would actually be playing on their phone with a controller. They would sync the controller, like an Xbox controller, to their phone and be playing Call of Duty right there between orders.
Oh, that's funny.
And like seamlessly. So I mean, as long as the device is good enough, I don't see any problem for something like Rogue Company. Especially when they were playing games like it wasn't Warzone though. It was Black Ops, but still.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think it just might be the full game.
it's not the way that everybody's going to play it for sure, and especially somebody like me that loves doing single player stuff more than anything. But at the same time, yeah, like you said, the tech behind it is really the only issue, and we've seen financial numbers that show that a shit ton of people are going to play mobile regardless. So and speaking of Rogue Company, it actually has a pretty good following on Switch. So if you ever want to check out a fun Reddit, the Rogue Company Reddit gets insane.
Yeah.
Really?
And there's a lot of Switch players on there. It's like, why aren't you doing? And they're just like, shut up for like a second, guys. We have PC players we're trying to like
We're trying to
give
cater to.
some fan service to. Yeah.
So Don't Starve by Clay Entertainment came out like 7 years ago or something. Like I think it was 2014, and on each platform it doesn't have any crossplay. On each platform, it's its own localization, if I'm using that term even correctly. So the the PlayStation version, it seems, is entirely caught up with the PC version now, which is great. When we first started playing on PS5 and then switched over to PC, we got access to a whole bunch of new stuff. We kind of had to relearn parts of the game. That's basically behind us. But on Switch, as far as I know, this is up to date or accurate information. But in Don't Starve, you have 4. I just held up 5 fingers. 4 seasons, but on the Switch you have only 2 seasons because they haven't done whatever they need to do to have all 4 seasons show up in the game, right? That is frustrating because having all 4 seasons seems crucial to the experience in that game. I forget which 2 seasons it has. It's either summer and winter, which are both the hardest because the temperature is killing you, or it's spring and fall, which are the easiest because they're the most bountiful. So I don't remember which one is which, but it looks certainly like half a game. So that if the issue is that it's on Switch and it doesn't have the localization team on it, that tells me I wish I could play the PC game on my phone using a controller. Problem solved. I don't need it to be localized to the Switch. You know, if they could, even today, if it was up to me, and I could snap my fingers and say, hey, this entire Switch team, we're canning it. Sorry, Switch players. Like, this exists, but we're not updating it anymore. Entire team's going over here, and now you're going to be able to play it on your phones. I would like that a lot because, like, a game like that's meant to be played with your friends, it's not very intensive on your hardware. That would be rad. The only thing I would be worried about is the UI readable, because Lizzie and we don't even want to split a big screen TV because it'll make the UI small, just like in Minecraft. So I'd be worried, is the UI going to be readable on a phone? But if we could see a trend like that, I've for years been wishing for more crossplay. Well, we're getting more crossplay, and I'm pretty happy with where not only crossplay is, but now you've got a lot of games coming to enough platforms that, what is it? Senua's Sacrifice is the newest one. Well, actually, you know what? Don't use that example. The new Ori is on a bunch of platforms, where the first Ori and the Ori and the Blind Forest was an exclusive to Xbox. So, without getting into a big thing about exclusivity, it's nice to be able to play a lot of things on the platform of your choice. And now the idea that you can play on your phone and you don't have to rebuy the game. You already, if you've got Game Pass, you already have the game. That's pretty cool. And it's definitely another move towards accessibility. You just have to have a phone that can run it. But I really enjoy that. If I could show up at one of your places and we could play a multiplayer game together on our own screen, it's just mine's, maybe significantly smaller than yours, and I hold it in my hands.
Maybe in living space.
Yeah. That sounds nice. That sounds like multiplayer accessibility to me. As long as you can make the business model work, which Microsoft doesn't seem to have a problem with, that sounds rad. And so, like, the Switch has a lot going for it, for basically being a tablet replacement and not like a phone screen that you're gaming on. But I would definitely welcome playing mobile games on my phone the way I do with my Switch, because that's, like I said, it's my cozy console, and I'm either playing it under a blanket or on the toilet. So I can do both of those things with my phone too.
But not at once.
But well, I have 2 hands.
It's a particularly cold bathroom.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, the funny thing is you said not to mention exclusivity, but it's kind of, we're getting to that point with mobile, and that's a funny little wrinkle in the whole thing. Like I posted here in the doc that we have Ni no Kuni Cross Worlds, which I have not tried yet, but it released recently and made $135 million in its first 11 days.
Crazy.
And it has not even gotten to the US yet.
That's wild.
That's the Ni no Kuni franchise. There are multiple Nier games. One's on already and one's coming too. that people are fucking crazy excited about. A ton of Final Fantasy games are on there, and again, exclusive to mobile platforms like what is it? Final Fantasy VII, the
Final Soldier.
First Soldier.
First Soldier. That's right.
Which is
Another battle
legit.
royale.
It is a battle royale, but it is actually really cool. The closed beta is going right now. I played one game of it and got way more excited than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Do you know how long it's going for? Because I might try to check it out.
The closed beta test ended. I think that was a few weeks ago that it ended, but
It sounds so recent.
it feels recent to me. Yeah, that was a really cool experience, and I was talking about the technical limitations of my phone, but it played just fine, and it's a game that looks very, very similar to Final Fantasy 15. But of course it's third person battle royale. It played very well on my Pixel 4a, which I really didn't expect, and it was a pretty hefty download. But again, all these huge franchises are getting to mobile, and they're exclusive to that. It's making things a little bit funky, but at the same time, I specifically am not the person that they're catering to. Especially when I don't play any MOBAs, and the world's biggest mobile game right now is Honor of Kings, which is another Tencent MOBA, and then of course we've got another Tencent MOBA in Unite coming,
which I actually am excited about. I cannot wait. This month, and
so I think we're gonna hear some really stupid sales figures though in the coming months, and I mean, Handheld is here to stay, whether it's Nintendo or not. It's selling.
Yeah. It reminded me, Genshin Impact came out last year, right? I think. It feels like forever ago, but also, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
April last year, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that has cross save rather between your PC and your phone, and by all accounts, it's a good mobile game. I mean, I've heard way more praise of that mobile game than anything knocking it, and that's not the game. That's the Breath of the Waifu. That's not the game that I thought would have to make such an impact in the mobile market. But it was. I mean, it was one of the most successful games of last year, if I remember correctly. But absolutely an example of how a mobile game can have your entire game experience and not be watered down. So we're definitely in a trajectory where mobile games are getting away from that, what a lot of elitist gamers would consider like not real gaming. There is so much real gaming, whatever that definition is, to be done on mobile now. That doesn't even include stuff like I play like Hearthstone, or even I played Oxenfree on my phone. I played Stardew Valley on my phone, but you can play just about anything on your phone now, and it's crazy, and it seems to be getting the proper support that it deserves. So it's definitely, I mean, it's almost like its own platform. We had a time where Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony were all releasing consoles in the same cycle, and then Nintendo broke that cycle, so you continue to have Microsoft and Sony. Then you got Nintendo over here that doesn't really adhere to generational rules as well, and then you got the PC that is forever upgrading and is also kind of in its own space. Because like I asked a question a few weeks ago, I was like, hey, what's your favorite game from the last generation? And several people were like, I don't even know when the generations begin and end because I'm on PC. Like, that means nothing to me. So you've got all of that. So you've basically got three different speeds. You got the two consoles, you got the Switch, and then you got the PC. And now you've got mobile, which somehow combines all of them, but is also its own separate thing. It's just interesting now that the market is so diverse that you can truly pick whatever way that you want to play. The only thing that's sad is who was I? Oh, I was talking to Lang, my friend and our moderator in Discord earlier, about he misses the Kinect features in the Xbox, if we had the Kinect features, we'd truly be able to play any way we wanted. We do have VR, which is certainly its own thing, but anyway.
I don't miss the Kinect at all. It never worked for me.
Yeah, it was an idea. It was a novel concept. My friend liked playing Fruit Ninja a lot and Just Dance, but
oh my god.
Yeah. So so that's the state of handheld gaming. If you guys have anything else you want to talk about, I just feel like there's so much now that being on mobile isn't really an afterthought anymore. Like I could easily imagine someone using their phone through services like Game Pass as their primary gaming platform. If I was
not anything that can stick out anymore. Like, when I first came obsessed with Smash Legends, which is a mobile game, and then I got into Super Mega Champions, which is a mobile game, and like they're really just coming out here with some actual full-fledged games now. It's really not the like farce people used to make it out to be anymore.
Yeah, and what I imagine, I certainly don't plan on having kids anytime soon, but if I did, to be able to boot up an Xbox game in the 10-minute period that I have a second away from my kids or something, instead of sitting down on the couch, turning on the TV, turning on the Xbox, booting up the game, it's just another thing for accessibility. It's another way that people can play the way that they want and not have to do a certain thing because the hardware or software is limiting them. So, you don't have to choose between your game or your kids anymore. Take that to the bank.
As per usual, if you want to learn more, go to partyinvite.games. That has all of our links. And of course, you can find our community very easily on Facebook or Discord. And again, those links are at partyinvite.games, along with a blog that hopefully we'll have some new content on soon. And, reach out to us, give us a yell if you'd like to join us as a guest sometime. I mean, we're always down for that. Let us know some topics that you'd like to talk about, and let's go from there.
And I have new internet, which is so exciting, so I can finally not only game, but I will be able to stream very soon. So as of this recording, I probably won't be streaming this weekend on Devi's birthday, but hopefully we'll be back live on. A week from when you hear this, so the weekend of the 17th. And I'm really excited. I have really missed streaming, especially the brunch specials. But I tell you what, dude, somewhere we're going to have to get used to is like normally I wake up and I start that stream at like 10-ish Central Time. But 10-ish Central Time is 8 a.m. here, and that's actually early. Like that's I'd have to wake up and be a person. So who knows? I've started that stream really hungover or totally sleep deprived several times. So, we're going to learn together. Well, thanks, everybody. And Carlos, thanks for hosting. I suppose we will catch y'all next week.
Bye. Woo. And I'll be older. Yay.
Oh, no.
Barely recognize you.